the anime adaptation curse has been broken. So why not we take an extra moment to look at another movie that came out that wasn't as good, an adaptation we call Netflix's Death Note.
Hello. Oh, I'm sorry. Hello and welcome to Geek Radio, the podcast, the premier flagship and international podcast of LRM Online. I'm not L. I'm Brandon Jones. Haha, had you fooled. And we're going to talk about that thing that Jammer just mentioned. What? You were confused? I know, it's very confusing. We're going to talk about this thing. I'm kind of interested to talk about this because I have not watched this. I didn't realize how
at
old.
All?
What?
You had not watched it at all?
No,
Death Note?
No. Listen, I tell stories like Yoda. Just hang on. Hold on.
Okay.
I hadn't realized, I hadn't watched this in 6 years. It boggles my mind that this is 6 years old already. Like, I remember watching this the first time it came out. And I just, like, when you suggested, I was like, yeah, cool. And then I went to watch it this week and I was like, holy crap, this is 6 years ago. I was a totally different person. Anyway, this film is Netflix's what? It was the first foray into live action animated films. I saw a list on Screen Junkies, I think. It was somewhere. Screen Rant that said that they've made about 14 live action anime.
Oh my god.
They have produced
really?
them or something. That's right. I was shocked to see some of the stuff that was on.
Are a lot of them Japanese?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Like,
so, like, for
Optimus
example,
one, was that Netflix?
So that was one.
Yeah.
Another example of one is the Rurouni Kenshin one, right? So there was a series of them that already existed, and then Netflix was like, "Oh, we like that," and then they produced Rurouni Kenshin in the beginning or something of that nature. So there were some on there like, does this count? Like, it kind of counts. Anyway, this film, 36% on Rotten Tomatoes from the critics and a 23% from the audience. Just absolutely fucking savage. Just for context, if you've never seen the anime, it has a 100% from the critics on Rotten Tomatoes and a 96% from the audience. So, like, there's a little bit of a gulf there.
A little bit of a gulf.
Just a little bit.
But is it deserved? That's the question.
Is it deserved? You know what? Do you mind if I go first?
Go for it. Do it. Have at it, bro.
All right. So here was the funny thing. I watched this, and I have not watched the anime in a very long time. So this anime is from like 2006, which is also based on a manga that I don't think I've ever read it.
The manga is so much better, and I'm gonna harp on this. I harp on this constantly. Oh yeah, and it's the story is exactly the same, but the problem is animation, film, TV is a different medium from manga, and I just feel like the anime is so lazy in its exposition. It's all internal monologue. You can get away with that better in a comic. You can't get away with it. Well, you can because apparently everyone loves it. But I hate watching the anime so much. That's the reason why I hate watching a lot of anime that is based on shonen manga is because there's so much internal monologue because they're just like, we're just going to do exactly the same thing that we did before. And people love it, and they do. But it just doesn't take advantage of the medium.
Just faithful to a fault almost.
But I love the manga. I love most of the manga. I think everyone knows what I'm talking about. 2/3 of the way through the manga, something happens, and then it kind of falls off a cliff. It's not terrible. It just kind of tries to do the same thing as like the first half, except it's not as good. But
how does it end? Does it end well?
It's okay. By the time it ends, you're just kind of like, okay, yeah, I'm ready. I've been ready for it to be done for a bit.
Because here's my thing. I need it to end well. I can't. Like, if you told me like 2/3 of the way, it was like, it's not so good, but it wrapped up well, I'd be like, all right, you know what? That's worth it. I'll go back to it. My thing with this film was, so how many chapters do you think the manga was? Like 100? Something like that?
100 some, I think so. That sounds about right.
And the anime ran for a couple of years. So you've got 100 chapters of a manga, 2-3 seasons of an anime. They condensed that to a film that is 1 hour and 40 minutes.
But they don't.
Sort of.
But they don't.
Sort of. They try.
It's more like, here's what they do. And this goes beyond just this adaptation. This adaptation is less of let's adapt the story as much as it is let's take the concept and the characters and shake them into like a little boggle thing, and then boom, here's this. And they do the same thing in the live action adaptation in Japan, where they basically have two movies that cover the manga, but they do it differently. There's a lot of big differences, especially a lot of major differences in how it ends and a lot of other things that it's basically just taking the concept, taking the characters and shaking it around. I think the Japanese live action is more faithful to what the manga does, but the filmmaking, I will say, is way better in the American version, significantly better.
You know what's funny? I did not remember that there was a Japanese version of this until I looked up the Netflix one. I was like, I've watched this, and I just have no recollection of watching the Japanese version. I found that the American version, and you can lambast me if you want, if you have no knowledge of the anime or the manga or the Japanese film, you're fine. Like, yeah, this is.
I agree 100%. That's literally been my thesis since this movie came out. Is if, and this is obviously I understand why people don't like it, but if this was an original movie, the ratings would not be what they are.
Yeah,
at all, and not remotely.
I scrolled
it's a solid
through some
movie.
of the reviews. I scrolled through some of the reviews, and like one of the criticisms, like they whitewashed it. It's like, did they though? Like they took a film and
they did. They did.
Did they? How?
Yeah, the main characters are white except for L. And they kind of did the adaptation thing in America, where it's just like, oh, we're gonna have nods to Japanese. We're gonna have one character who's Japanese, and then we're gonna have a couple scenes in Japan. But overall, it's gonna be mostly Americanized. I guess Americanized is better, but like you have Light and Mia as opposed to Light and Misa.
Here's where I disagree. Okay. When you, at least in my understanding, when you talk about whitewashing, it is about when you take a role that is intended for a character of a different race and then you make them white. I think that is different than taking a film or manga or anime and transporting it to America, because Korea, Japan, those are homogeneous societies. And so I think it's very different to say that you're whitewashing it when that's not really what happened. However, here is what I think is a better example of what you're describing. Ghost in the Shell.
Yes.
Scarlett Johansson, her physical body was of a white woman, right? The one that could play a tree. She is very clearly, there's a controversy when people were saying like, hey, Chamber's making a face at me and I'm going to explain the controversy.
Don't explain it. It's fine. Whatever.
No. People were like, hey, what are you doing? Why are you playing this Japanese character? And she was like, I can play a tree, right? That was like one of her retorts.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah. What you can't play as a publicist. Maybe don't.
Yeah, don't do that.
What was interesting about that was within the film, I'm sure they thought that this was a nod. What I recall is that they showed who the Major's mother was, and she was a Japanese woman, implying that somehow the body that Scarlett Johansson had wasn't even modeled off of her original body. She was actually a Japanese woman. So to me, that is a character that is whitewashed because ostensibly she was supposed to be Japanese. That to me is different than
I see what you're saying
here.
I get it, but at the same time, there's no reason why a story that takes place in America can't feature a Japanese lead.
I think that is different than saying, like, what you're asking for is diversity. And I think that's different than saying that a film is whitewashed.
I think diversity when you're based on a Japanese property makes sense, though.
Sure. And I'm not arguing that point. What I'm saying is that the specific criticism of whitewashing, I don't think applies here.
Okay, that's fair.
I think I
don't agree, but that's fine. I get your point.
I think words have specific meaning. Yeah, I think words have specific meaning. I think that this is that word.
I think words have specific meaning, and I just think you don't understand those words.
Yeah, I'm not saying you don't. I just think that the reviewer here used it incorrectly.
Right. Okay. So go on. You're making a point about like adaptation versus not adaptation, etc.
Yeah. I just think that if you had no knowledge of if this was an original property, just like you said, this would be fine. My favorite thing about this film, from beginning to end, was Willem Dafoe. And what I love is I can just imagine the executives and the producer and the director like, hey, you like Green Goblin? Yeah, I like Green Goblin. Let's get him to do the thing. And he kind of does that voice, but I think he is self-aware enough to not do it exactly. And I appreciated that, right? Like he very easily could have just dialed in and done the Green Goblin shtick. And while it sometimes gets there, and I think that's partly just because that's his voice.
That's his voice, yeah.
I think, yeah, that's just his voice. And so I really enjoyed him as his character. And I thought they did a really good job with Ryuk as a character, like watching him physically. I thought was really well done. So
yeah, I think there's a lot of, before we get into the negatives, I think there's a lot of positives. I think the cast mostly was really good. As you mentioned, Willem Dafoe, classic. Margaret Qualley, crazy, but really good. Lakeith Stanfield as Elle. Oh my God. That was amazing. I don't remember what he had done before this, but whoever saw him
not much
and was just like him, I never would have guessed. Especially if you look at all the roles he's done since then. I wouldn't thought like, oh yeah, Elle. To be fair, I probably wouldn't look at most actors and say Elle, because Elle is such a strange and weird character. And I don't even think I would have imagined they would have keep the weird mannerisms, like standing on his chair and being hunched over like that.
But they totally did.
They totally did, and they totally
pouring
worked.
Candy down his mouth,
talking kind of as he's talking and stuff, like
Felix.
Very, very cartoony, and but also it didn't feel cartoony, but it felt like somebody who's just, you know, he's a genius.
And when they say that somebody understands the assignment, like this is what they mean. Like Lakeith Stanfield understood the assignment. Do that, but not that. Copy my homework, but don't make it obvious.
When the movie came out, he did interviews exclusively as Elle.
I see that. That's awesome.
Yeah. But yeah, so he did great. They did great. I think, and Shea Wiggum did great as well as Elle's dad. Like they did pretty good. And the filmmaking, like I remember at the beginning, as the movie was starting, it almost felt like I was watching like the beginning of The Faculty or something, with just like how it was stylized. It had like a Robert Rodriguez horror-esque feel to it. And I think that's probably the biggest, thing that fans don't like. This is not a horror franchise, but they kind of turned it into one. And then they tagged on the more cat and mouse aspect at the end. Yes. The thing that everyone likes about Death Note is the cat and mouse stuff. And they really relegated that to sort of like a 15 to 20 minute stretch kind of near the end of the story.
Yeah.
But that was honestly the best part of the manga.
You get like a Heat-esque scene, right? So you get this Robert De Niro versus Al Pacino scene in a diner. And so you get that between Light and Elle, which I enjoyed. But I agree with you 100%. Like I remember, and again, this goes back to the point of I don't wish I had. If I had no knowledge of the anime, I would have been much better off. Like I remember them playing tennis against each other, right? Like
that was weird in the manga too.
It's weird, but like I was like, yeah, whatever. I'm along for this ride.
And I remember how much of that tennis was just like internal thoughts.
Yeah, so fun. And so I kind of I did not like that was missing from the film. And I'm wondering if this film was longer than 1 hour and 40 minutes, would we have maybe not gotten that, but some more of that interaction, that tension between the two of them? Because I felt like one of the things that I did not like about this film was the pacing. It was too condensed. And I get that this is like part one of like, I don't know, maybe a duology or a trilogy.
I still think this looks like it stands alone in my mind.
Sure. I agree.
Okay.
I don't think that them not making more, even though they were supposed to, I don't think that hurts this film. It wasn't such a huge cliffhanger. I think you got enough from what you saw. And this is going to be spoiled. Are we doing? Do we spoil?
Yeah, screw it. It's a 6-year-old movie. Let's just spoil it.
At the end, when Elle is holding the book, or I'm sorry, the piece of paper where he can write Light's name in there, I think you have enough context from the film itself to figure out what's going to happen next. And even if you don't, I think I like that it's open to interpretation. So I actually,
I always thought that. I was like, Ryuk laughing at the end and saying, "You humans are so interesting." I thought it was him being like, "Oh, I'm coming for you next, bitch. Like your name was just written down. You're dying." I always thought that. And it was weird to me. I'm like, oh yeah, I heard after that, like, oh yeah, there's gonna be a sequel. I'm like, oh, I guess not. They did leave it open one way or another, but in my mind, when I first saw it, it was always, it is, what's it called? he's gone. He's dead. So, but yeah, it was I just thought it was a cool ending. I think if they knew where it was going, they would have had those interactions. But I will say another potential weakness is Light is a completely different character from this to that. And by that I mean the manga. And that he's a genius sociopath in the manga. Psychopath. He's not even a sociopath. He's a psychopath. In this, he is a, kind of above average intelligent kid with a moral compass, but kind of an idiot at the same time.
It's weird because they want you to believe that he is not, I don't want to say genius, but like probably top of the class type material, like a very smart guy. Like he's doing other people's homework and all this other stuff. But he is more interested in getting girls, right? So you see him doing other people's homework, but at the same time, he reveals the death note to this girl that's been talking to him for 5 minutes. And so that reveals a lot about where his head's at. Like he just wants to have sex. Where, to your point about the manga or the anime, like Light,
the manga, Light
care less.
No, but Light's basically been having sex since 8 years old in the manga, pretty much. That's basically the implication there in the manga. Like, obviously, I'm exaggerating.
I don't remember that. Oh my god.
Well, no. Basically, what it was is like I remember this one scene where, and that's one of the things I don't like about the manga, where he's just like, he's not a human. He is not a teenager. He is a 40-year-old man writing a teenager, where he's just like, oh, something you don't know, I'm actually really popular with the girls. Like, he apparently goes through a lot of girlfriends in the manga. Yeah. And I'm just like, all right, so you're really smart.
He had a stalker in the anime, didn't he?
That you're talking about Misa?
Was it Misa?
Yeah,
I thought there was somebody else that was okay.
Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. It's been a long time since I read the manga, so I have no idea. But maybe.
Yeah.
But yeah. Anyways, there's a lot of one thing I think what I mentioned before is that what made the manga great is not in this movie. That is the biggest criticism. Like I said, the cat and mouse stuff, I have in my notes here, horror v thriller, Dawn of Justice. So basically, it's trying to be a horror, whereas the manga is a thriller. It's a completely different genre, in my mind.
It is 100% like you brought up the faculty already. It is like that high school-esque drama mixed in with Final Destination.
Yeah.
Like the first death we see in this film is it's an accident that happens where two trucks slam into each other because they're avoiding this kid's basketball avoiding a kid who ran in the street trying to catch a basketball. And so then the car crashes into another vehicle and the ladder that was on top of that car flies off and cuts this kid's head in half. And I was like, oh, I know what this is. And then the blood splatters onto the kid next to him. It's like, that's 100% Final Destination, where they're coming up with these creative ways of killing these people.
Yeah. Also, I feel like this is not a problem in the writing as much as it is a problem in the casting. Light's actor is just so smug and obnoxious. Oh my god. I just don't like him in that role. I feel really bad saying that, but his smugness is really annoying in the movie. Did you get that at all?
No, I came away with it different. Like I did have a problem with the writing where you have this guy who is supposed to be very smart, and maybe it makes sense somehow where he's very smart, but also this is the first person he's loved or been in love with. I don't think they did a good job of writing that conflict because he seems to go both ways.
They want to have their cake and eat it too.
Yeah. And I think he has to be one or the other, someone who is that easily duped by someone he's in love with and just isn't particularly smart, or he's just that smart and doesn't care.
I don't think he's duped. I just think in this movie, he wants to assume that the best of her. And it's not that he's dumb. He's just naive, so to speak.
Yeah.
Like he's naive where he doesn't expect her to be that awful, even though she is. She's crazy.
She's pretty bad.
That girl's crazy.
She is crazy. I think the things that I really missed about this were the cat and mouse stuff. Like, I really enjoyed seeing Elle and their interactions. Like, I remember he said something like, if you know it's me, why don't you just arrest me? He goes, I don't do check, I do checkmate. I was like, that's a good line. I like that. Mm-hmm. I thought that there were some really good moments in this film. Like I laughed, and I remembered knowing that this was ill received and laughing throughout the course of the film. I was like, I don't know what the problem is. I don't
I
know
just
what's wrong.
remember when I asked you, like, I was like, "You want to watch this?" And I was like, "Have you seen it before?" You're like, "Unfortunately," and I'm like, "Oh, so he hates it. He doesn't like it. Interesting."
I
That was
remember
your
not liking
response.
it the first time I watched it.
Hmm.
I don't
That's actually
know.
what I wanted. I was telling Kirsten when I was watching it, I was like, I expected this to age worse than it did. I do not think this is a bad movie at all. I think it's a pretty good movie. It's just not a very good adaptation.
Is it a good movie? Yeah. Yeah.
I didn't
I
say
think
it's pretty good.
yeah.
Like I think it's fun. Like if you're
Yeah.
sitting down with friends, having some popcorn or snacks or whatever, you just want to have a good time. This is not a bad movie to watch. I think it's
Yeah. I
totally
did
fun.
think it was weird that, and maybe he knew already. I did think it was weird that L, who speaks Japanese, didn't know that Kira was light in Japanese, and maybe he was
Celtic,
just
but
waiting and
no,
waiting.
light is it's in Russian or Celtic.
Russian or Celtic. Okay. All
That's
right.
what he said.
He said it so fast. Maybe I missed it. All right. Okay.
But in
Then I'll
Japanese,
accept it.
it's a
Killer.
killer. It's like a romanization or whatever they call it of that.
Yeah, that's
So
right.
he was trying to confuse with it.
Yeah. Okay. What letter
Yeah.
grade would you
Anyways,
give this then?
what would I would give? So I'd almost give it 2. As an adaptation, it's probably a D plus. As a movie, probably B minus.
Okay. I'd give it a solid B. I think this is so, like we talk about B horror films. This is that 100%. This is a B horror film.
And unfortunately, Death Note is not a B horror film franchise. It shouldn't be, but this is what we got. And I kind of like it. And I'm interested to see what the Duffer Brothers do with the series, the live action series they're going to be doing. This is a ripe franchise, and I'm excited to see what comes of it. I think they'll understand the assignment better than Adam Wingard did. I actually like what Adam Wingard did, but I don't think it's what fans wanted with the One Piece adaptation basically being like, yes, we just want the anime or manga in live action. I wonder if they'll bring some of that.
What's funny is, again, that Screen Rant list I saw, it had this listed as the worst adaptation or the worst Netflix anime. I thought that Cowboy Bebop was worse.
Literally anything is worse. This is anything, any anime adaptation I've seen that isn't One Piece is worse than this.
The Japanese FMA adaptation was pretty awful too. The one on
Never
Netflix.
saw it. No.
Yeah,
I always FMA. I'm a bad anime
right?
fan.
I think there was 2. I didn't see anything after the first because the first one was so rough. And you guys do understand. Do you know what B movie actually is? You know it has nothing to do with grade, right?
Yeah, we know what that means.
No,
He's just saying it's what it is.
Okay.
Yes, it means.
Okay.
It means you're not funded by a big studio to actually make big budget. Or
I mean,
what does it mean?
Do you know the origin is what I was saying and why they're B movies?
Why? Tell us why.
It's like B-side on a tape.
Oh, yeah.
During double features, it was the B. You had your headliner. This was the B-side. Yeah.
It's like at a drive-in thing. You'd have that secondary movie.
Well, theaters just in general, but yeah, sure.
Okay. Well, my point is you'd have a movie that you went to see, and then you have the movie that you have the starting person at a band.
Yep. And I wouldn't compare it to opening acts because that's different. But
why not? It's the same shit. It's the same shit, Kyle.
No, it's not.
It's the same shit, Kyle. It's the same shit.
No, an opening act is not
shit.
It's
the same shit, Kyle. It's the same shit, Kyle.
You don't even.
So to break up the monotony of
shit,
this
argument.
So they've got very quickly. There are 14 films on this list. Death Note is listed as the worst, next to Cowboy Bebop at 13. Full Metal Alchemist 1, 2, and 3 are the next 3 films.
Wait, so hold on. If you're at number 14, doesn't that mean it's the least egregious? Isn't number 1 the most egregious in that list?
You know what? Maybe you're right. Let's see.
I'm assuming Dragon Ball Evolution is number 1.
No, these are Netflix.
Oh, okay.
Netflix ones. No, ranked from worst to best. Yeah, so it's the worst.
That's silly.
That's wrong. The best one being, of course, One Piece. Second best one. I didn't realize before I read this list that Alice in Wonderland was based on an anime.
You mean Borderland?
I'm enjoying that. What did I say? Wonderland?
You said Wonderland.
Alice in Borderland. Yes, I'm sorry. Alice, I'm looking at the words and I'm saying them wrong. Alice in Borderland. I didn't realize that was based on an anime. I enjoy that show.
I haven't seen it yet. I want to see it though.
It's fun. It's definitely fun. And I think the fact that there are 2 seasons out now, I prefer that to just watching the first season. The Rurouni Kenshin ones, 2 of them. So it goes One Piece, number 1, number 2, Alice in Borderland, Rurouni Kenshin, the final, and then Rurouni Kenshin, the beginning. Those are the top 4.
I'm assuming. Okay, yeah.
For a long time, the Kenshin movies were the only ones that were like, those were the only good live action anime adaptations for a while. The original movies. So kind of crazy to see those doing as well as the past ones did.
Yeah, I'm a fan. I'm gonna have to go watch them now that I've seen this list. But yeah, this film not so bad. Definitely not deserving of number 14 on this list. Certainly better than I've seen bits and pieces of one of the Full Alchemist movies, and it's like, I'm not watching this. This is better than those. And I think the problem is, as you said before, Jammer, in a vacuum, this is better than most of these films.
Yeah, I
but
think
as compared to an adaptation, yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, I kind of have the same perspective. Also, I'm like, everyone always craps on the live action Disney movies, but if the live action Disney movies didn't have an animated counterpart, I think people would like them a lot more.
I disagree.
Not all.
I'm going to disagree with you,
but some of them.
Lion King is terrible.
Well, yeah, even that was the exception, because I
Aladdin
don't like
is garbage. Aladdin is hot garbage.
That's fine.
It's not.
It's fine. It has redeeming qualities in my opinion. It's not
the lead actor who's also supposed to be called Aladdin. Like, he's horrific. He's just as bad as Light is in this film. And so, as the title character being that bad. And I just remember when they were like, yeah, I'm going to be Ezra Bridger. And like, no, the fuck you're not. I'm not going to watch Ahsoka if you're going to be Ezra. I'm out. And then when it wasn't him, when it was snaked by a much better actor, I was incredibly happy. So what do you think is a good Disney live action film? Well, like, what's the best one?
Probably either Beauty and the Beast or Little Mermaid.
Okay, I find no fault in your logic.
Oh, and Cinderella's pretty good too.
Yeah. You know what? I need a list. We need to rank these.
Yeah, we should bring it. We should make our own Screen Rant list and then make them from least egregious to most egregious.
Let's do it. I'm down.
The kids are into tier lists, guys. Tier list. You'll have the tier list.
You're right.
Yeah. What's a tier list? What's a tier list? Oh,
are you kidding me? No, it's just like where you have those different tiers on the left hand side that are like the different colors. You have like you have like the S tier, A tier, B tier, C tier.
Oh,
D tier. And then you put the covers into each one.
Yeah, there's a website and everything. We did it for live action anime movie, or not live action anime. That's what you guys are talking about. We did it for anime films for AVR Squared a while ago.
How many Makoto Shinkai films were in there?
All of them.
All of them were in there?
I mean, we ranked, or we tiered over 30 films. And we had rules like you could only so we could all agree on one S tier, and then each of us could have our own S tier, like trump card, where as we're discussing where these should go, we each had one where it's like, nope, this is my S tier. And then there was the one for everyone to agree on. But yeah, anyways.
This is one of those situations where everything old is new again. So as you guys are saying this, I looked it up. Devil May Cry. This is straight up from Devil May Cry. And I remember like you would kill a bunch of guys in a room, and like the whole point was to kill them so stylishly and get up to S tier or S tier plus. Like, I didn't think of that as being this, but that was how many years ago? 2000.
I think 2000, 2001.
There was like tier levels for also. Tier levels has been big in a lot of games in Japan for a while. Yeah. A lot of arcade things going
dancing
back.
Games.
Yeah, well before DMC. I think some of the first time I saw like tier was rail shooters in arcade. I think is like one of the first times I ever saw like, what the hell do you mean S tier? Isn't an A House best?
S for special.
Yeah.
You're specially awesome.
You are especially awesome. You know what's especially awesome? This podcast.
Right,
so is. It is awesome. We had a fun conversation at the beginning of this podcast that It's going to be about what are we talking about? We're talking about SAG-AFTRA stuff, and it'll be fun. So
You just mumble
stay
that?
tuned.
SAG-AFTRA.
You know what? It's part of it because every time you say it, I keep wanting to say sad after, and I'm like, that joke. I don't think in my brain it's not a joke anymore. They're like, say sad after. It's like, no, it's not. It's not that. So I do mumble through it.
But just to add some extra clarity at the beginning of what the conversation is about, because I'm not sure how much we delve into what the actual news piece is. And the news piece is that next week is the last week that studios are willing to actually negotiate with SAG-AFTRA, because after that point, they're not going to see a benefit. That basically the season is shot. The season of TV is shot. So there's no what's it called? Motivation is not the right word. Incentive for them to continue negotiating until early next year. So that's kind of where the conversation starts, and then we kind of go off and do our normal thing. So, yeah, take it away, Kyle.
What am I doing?
I mean, you're editing the part into the
slot.
Well, it was mostly just the SAG stuff. Where they're like next
stuff.
week or no bust or bust. Next week or bust. That's it. That's what studios are saying. If we can't make a deal next week, we're not making a deal to January.
That's one of stuff. Why? What happens? Why? What is with this artificial deadline? Is this some hardball bullshit?
Yeah.
Well, if you remember way back at the beginning of all this,
I don't.
Okay. Well, way back at the beginning, some like internal discussions and stuff were leaked, and the studios were willing to wait for the holidays specifically to cause maximum pain. Like that was some of the earliest stuff rumored.
Oh yeah, I do remember
said
that.
And leaked and all of that.
But that was for the writer's strike.
No, that was going to be for both. Oh yeah. I think it started out with the writer's strike, but it was like carried over. Like they're not.
I think it did carry over to both because I remember fuck. What am I not remembering? I remember Ron Perlman. Remember when he got on like social media and was like, "Hey,
yeah."
Was that about the writers? I thought that was about everybody.
At least just. Maybe it wasn't about it. Maybe you're right. Maybe it wasn't everybody.
I mean, regardless, the studios are willing to wait. We've been hearing from the sources that layoffs are not just the few that have already happened, but more are indeed coming. There's a lot of leases on equipment places and things like that are going to be unaffordable. Like prop storage places can't even like stuff's getting bad. Yeah, like they because there's no income coming out for the props and for the set, like the whole business model.
The rent is too damn high.
Yeah, rent is too damn high.
And what the studio is essentially, they're like, if things don't happen by next week, the fall season is shot. There's no production is going to happen until January of 2024, so there's no point in continuing at this for now. There's no incentive.
These studios can know that they can withstand that, right? Where they're just like, we're just going to keep paying our support staff. We're going to keep paying our executives and our C-suite, and we'll be fine.
They got the sports. They got the residual
foosball
shit, not streaming revenue, but like their over-the-air type stuff. Like, and that's the thing when people, it's just like you and me when we discuss Microsoft and their acquisition of things. Blizzard. And people will look at gaming like that whole thing, that whole rumor, or not rumor, that whole thing where Phil Spector was like Phil Spector, right? Spencer. Spector. Where did I get Spector?
Spector's the other guy.
Oh, that's funny.
Phil Spencer, he said basically we might have to get out of gaming if we don't see Xbox Game Pass reach certain numbers, right? And I've been pointing out how that's not that crazy in the grand scheme of things. People, well, it's billions of dollars and Microsoft just spent $69 billion on Blizzard Activision. I'm like, yeah. And last year they only made $23 billion with counting Blizzard Activision for Microsoft Gaming. Think about that. Not only that, but the actual just Microsoft Gaming revenue was down from last year.
feel like Kyle definitely wants to talk about this.
Yeah, I know. Kyle, do you just want to join us for this part of this episode?
Well, this is stuff I talked about weeks ago on what you call, but yeah, I can mention some of this stuff. But the whole thing is like it's not unfeasible when a company with a market cap of $2 trillion, when you take out, gaming is one small fraction of that, and then people focus so much on right, and people focus so much on revenue. Well, it made this, but how much did it cost? Microsoft is losing money on gaming.
No, but that's like the entire state of everything that we do, right? Everything is this dumbed down analysis of just that. Like, oh, well, I see the number on the graph going up, so it must be good, right? Like, okay, guys.
That's Silicon Valley coming to every industry in the world.
I've been like discussing film. They've been all like they've thrown journalism to the wind, and they're always, hitting on the studios and execs and stuff like that. And I'm like, you guys keep mentioning revenue, especially streaming revenue. I hate to tell you this, most streaming services are losing money. So what fucking revenue? It's such a stupid number to bring up.
I was as soon as you said that, I was like, yes. And I was like, wait a minute. I'm wondering if movies did that before Silicon Valley, though. Right? Movies got to make more money.
Yeah.
And then
you mean like no, I think before that, studios were basically just like Moneyball. Did that movie get on base?
Yeah.
Did that movie make money? Did it add to the coffers, or did it not?
This could be a fun chicken or the egg type thing.
And this is me talking out of my ass, but like it seems like they're always chasing bigger things, but until the past 20 years, or maybe even 30 years, it was very much just kind of like, let's have a well-rounded thing so that we can risk a little bit here, there, throughout the entire spectrum of types of movies.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird. It keeps going back to Willem's video. Man, his videos must be really good if I'm thinking about it this much. Because I was running and I was thinking about The Matrix. I was like, nobody would make a movie like The Matrix anymore, right?
Well, would they? Hold on, let me think about that.
I mean, they did. They made another Matrix movie.
Well, no, that's different. It's a franchise now.
Yeah, he's doing the thing.
Making a joke.
Yeah, but a film that does not have. Well, actually, John Wick is kind of The Matrix, right? Where you've got a 90-minute R-rated film, and all you're banking on is Keanu Reeves' star power, and it's a low-budget R-rated shoot 'em up action film.
It all fit. It's not quite the same thing. The Matrix had a $63 million budget, which in the 90s would probably be closer to $100 million, and John Wick was like 40 or 30 or something.
Okay,
so not quite the same.
So lower stakes for John Wick.
Much lower stakes. Oh, fucking. Oh, that's chapter 4. Chapter 4 is 100. John Wick 1 budget.
I think you're probably. Oh no, 4 was 40. Oh no, 1 had to cost like 25.
No. Yeah, 1 was 20 to 30 million.
Yes. So 25.
Yeah, 4 was 100 million.
Right in 1. We're recording, right? Yes, we are.
Yeah. Yes. I was recording that. But on a
you notice when Kyle's right, he's like, I fucking told you I was right. When I'm like, I'm right. He's like, yeah, we're fucking right.
Yeah, get over it, you fucker.
Damn it.
We're going to do a show?
You found me. Yeah, I was going to say.
I'm ready for a show. I'm ready for a show.
And if you like what you heard, do all the socials, like, rate, comment, subscribe, share. We would definitely appreciate it. Also, jump on the Discord. Do you like Death Note or you don't like Death Note? Let us know. We would definitely appreciate it. Also, we've got 13 days of Halloween, 13 days of terror. Go check out those on the Genreverse on YouTube. Also, check out lrmonline.com for all of your entertainment news needs. Other than that, we will catch you on the next one. Hasta lasagna.
Bye.